Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, each morning I've been coming out and doing a little bit of earthworks, excavating Pond 7, expanding this pond. I posted a video, I think it was November 1st, about my plans of starting to expand Pond 7. I haven't posted any other videos on the expansion. Historically, this pond was put in, I think about 12, uh, I'm sorry, 10 years ago, and it was a circular pond. And 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I used Bumblebee, the PC27 MR2, small excavator, and my track loader, the Hound, which was Komatsu CK35-1 track loader to remove to expand the pond with the intentions of doing further expansions in the future. So one of the things about this area of the property, very similar to most areas on our property, it's pretty bony gravel. We got a couple of good-sized boulders out of this pond area when we were excavating the area. And my thoughts were, well, even though this is gravel in this area, this pond, after its initial digging, always maintained water, never went completely dry. And then after expanding the pond a couple years ago, it never went dry again, even though we've had droughts. And this year we've had another drought. So since I have Elon, that's the Takushi TB290, the excavator that you see being used today in the video here, I decided, since the snow isn't coming just yet and I need to put in more access roads and paths so that I can create chunks. And I'll make a video about chunking some of our forest areas so that in the future I can take a quadrant or a chunk of property, clear it, and reforest it with white oaks and swamp oaks as well. I'll point out one thing. Where you see me excavating right at this point, over in the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see there aren't as many rocks over there. And that's a vein of sand that I just dug into. The second vein of sand that I've hit in this pond. And the Matty G02 commented when I posted the last video on expanding the pond. He said, "Great video. Question, my friend. Doesn't this process risk poking a hole in any seal that's there? This concept always interests me, but it feels risky." And yes, indeed, this is risky. If you were to want to put in a septic system or a leach field or a drain system, putting it in gravel or sand would be a good way of ensuring that the water isn't going to stay around. It's going to follow the path of least resistance through the large pore sizes between the sand and gravel. So yes, this is extremely risky. And on the left-hand side of the screen, there is a vein of sand over in that area. However, my thoughts were, during this process, I continued to dig out further on that side to shape the pond the way that I want to shape it. So this expansion is going to create some marginal zones, and I've talked about marginal zones in our ponds, swales, canals videos in our playlist, and also there's plenty of videos there. And one of the things I'm doing at this point in the video is, you see the bucket is digging down deeper than the water level, if you can appreciate that, and I'm leaving a little dam of the sand and gravel there at that edge. And the reason that I'm digging deeper on the side closer to the excavator is to keep the water from going into the material that I'm digging up out of there, so that as I spread this material, in the access roads and the path areas that I'm going to. It'd be one thing if I was just going to pile it up here and leave it until next season. But what I've been doing is each day taking the piles that I dig out of the pond and using these to fill in and build the roads so that I can create these quadrants or zones where I can manage reforesting the areas as well. So hopefully you can see that the excavating bucket, now I'm over in the sand right there again. You don't see the rocks over there. So that always concerns me when I hit really sandy areas, even though gravel should concern me just as much as the sand. And when I hit a vein of coarse gravel or coarse sand, I try to dig that vein out as much as I can. But right behind the excavator where I'm digging is an access road to go in, one of the access roads to make it down into the forest area there. Can I go ahead and dig this out further and see if I can find the end of that vein? So sometimes you'll have a pocket of sand or a pocket of gravel that's really porous, and water will move through that rapidly, so the pond would drain. But sometimes if you just have a pocket, you can dig that pocket out and you have hopefully some clay there or really, really super fine sand. The one good thing about on the left side of the screen, or my right side as I'm digging it, is that the sand that's coming out is very, very fine. And the finer the particles are, the smaller the particles are, the more resistance to the flow of water, and therefore less of a chance of it draining. So I hope that answers the question. Is this risky? Yep, absolutely. Is it worth risking because I need all of this fill for other areas on the property? Yes. Is it worth it so that we can create the pond that I really ultimately had planned for? Yes. And so I'll probably make a video and show the marginal zones. If you look on the right hand side of your screen, you'll see that the ground level that the excavator tracks are sitting on is at one level. Then you'll see on the right side of the screen that I've dug it down about 20 inches to 2 feet, 24 inches in depth over there to create a marginal zone. Okay, now I'm breaking away the area that was that little dam, and now that material is coming in there. And at the base of this there is a little bit of clay, super fine material there, and I'm actually mixing it up a little bit, and in a couple of minutes I'll grab some of that and try to seal part of the area where the sand is. So now I've prevented all of the moisture from the pond to, that's the sand area over there that I'm digging now, all the moisture from the pond to get dug up out of the pond and get mixed in with all the material that I'm going to want to move within the next 24 hours. So now I'm starting to dig a marginal zone around here now, and since I see the sand over on your left side of the screen and to the right of the excavator, I'll be going over there and using some of the wet material that came from where I had just dug, and hopefully that's mixed up enough so that the sediment, the finest particles, are suspended in there and just starting to settle on the very top of that material. And I'll just pack that down a little bit over there, and you'll see in just a moment or so. You'll see me taking and using the bucket of the excavator and purposely knocking down the mound where I'm piling the fill that's being taken out of the excavation site, and I'll just stop every once in a while and start taking that material and start pushing it back so that I make the base of the pile much larger. So as I take that scoop, you'll see sometimes I just reverse scoop it there and just make it a little bit wider so that when I use the track loader to dig that up, it's much easier. So there I am pushing some back now through this process. I'm purposely not digging into the moist area just yet. I'm creating a little bit of a slope that I will be able to see a little bit more clearly, because you can't really see all that well because the bank of the material there, and then after I get it scooped back to the point where I'm comfortable, then I'll go ahead and start working on that margin there as well. And all of these margins are going to be worked on again later. You'll see I'll get out in a minute here and take a look around to see what I think of how the project is going thus far here. But still digging out as much of this material as needed, to try and accomplish the mission here. Working on that marginal zone now. Just coming around. And all of this will be dressed up again in the future. And I'm saying, okay, yes, that is still real sandy there. Take a look at it. As it had time to get into suspension there, some of the material sitting on the surface of it. I'm walking around getting a couple of different perspectives and deciding just what to do. Let's move up and grab. Yeah, that sand is pretty deep in there. And I can see now that the vein runs deeper than where it runs further back under the roadway where I don't want it to go. But whatever level that I can pack the material at will work out the best. I'm grabbing some and making sure that I'm mixing some of that material in there. I can't really go out and go any further and reach out there. I'm grabbing some of this really moist material from the areas that I think it will work out well. And then I'll pack that down pretty well. And I'm always going to come back and reassess. This is nowhere near where I want it to be yet. But roughing out the shape of the pond. On the right hand side of the screen, there's a lot more work that I've got to do over there. But I'm not planning at this point to go much further, going further backwards where the excavator is sitting right there. That's, like I mentioned, the access road there that I'm going to be wanting to work at. In other words, driving with equipment back and forth through that area. That pile I've already removed. It's made roadways, and I'll make a video showing about the chunking process and the road systems that we've got there. So that's about it. I hope this makes sense. I'll post another video in the near future, as long as the weather holds out, so we can show you how things are looking and what the plans are with the margins as well. I really appreciate you folks, your comments and your questions. I think they're excellent questions, and certainly it is a risky process. Stay safe and take good care of yourselves. I really appreciate you all. Bye-bye now.